Alright. I had just gotten home from work and decided to check my email. There was nothing really interesting, just some emails saying I'd won the Irish lottery and some chain messages. I, for some reason, always liked reading the chain messages even though I never sent them to anyone. I was reading a lot of them, and most of them were of some little kid getting killed and me having to send it to 12 people, same old, same old. However, on the last one that I was on, instead of the normal no subject, it said plague doctor. I just thought someone was trying to go the extra mile, so I opened it. This one seemed like it took a while to write. It said,
"Hello, I am the plague doctor. I am one of your nightmares as a kid. Remember me? The man with the beak."
At this point, I was awestruck. Someone somehow knew that. It really creeped me out, but I continued on.
"Now, I want you to do something for me so you don't have to see me ever again. Just send this to 20 people, and I will leave you be."
I thought it was my dad trying to scare me since I used to wake up in the middle of the night screaming about the man with the beak. However, I was getting tired, so I decided to go back to sleep. I woke up because I felt a tapping on my stomach. I looked down and there was this thing. It looked like a stick. I had no idea what it was, so I took it to the library in downtown. And when I showed the librarian, he told me that it looks like something a plague doctor would carry. I was convinced it was my dad, so I decided to give him a visit. When I got there, he said he hasn't sent me anything. I got on his computer and I looked through his history to see if he ever logged on to a different email. He was telling the truth. Eventually, I got tired of snooping around, so I said goodbye to my dad and I started to head home. But instead of going to my house, I dropped by my friend's house. I asked him if I could stay over and he said sure. I told him because I was scared of how someone got into my house in the first place. In the middle of the night, I woke up and felt something on my leg. It kind of stung. When I turned on the light to see what it was, I saw that it was a leech. I was convinced now that it was him, but when I went into his room to ask him about it, he wasn't there. There was a note laying on his bed. I read it, and it said,
"I told you I would leave you alone if you just sent it."
As soon as I finished reading it, I bolted straight to the police department and told them about everything. The officers didn't believe me at first for some reason, but eventually I convinced them. Luckily, one of the officers let me stay at their house for the night. I was really scared to go to sleep, but finally I passed out after taking some sleeping pills. When I woke up, everything seemed different for some reason. I walked outside the guest room and everyone was just normal, so I decided it was just because I had just woken up. I asked the officer if they had seen anything, and he just stared at me. Well, eventually I just decided to go home. Their reactions were very strange, however. I couldn't stop thinking about him. But that's when I saw him, when I walked out the door. The man with the beak. He turned his head to the side and said,
"I want to give you something."
I was so scared I couldn't move. He walked up to me and took my hand. He placed an object inside of it. Well, I just decided to run straight back into the house. I didn't bother opening my hand. I was too scared. Way too scared. When I showed the officer and his family what it was, they just screamed. They were horrified at what he put in my hand. They looked at me as if I was a monster. I didn't know what they were doing or why they would act like that. So I looked at the object. It was a little glass ball. It looked like I was inside of it. I ran to a mirror, and I saw that I was now the man with the beak.